just want to say I'm so happy to be here. My name is Andy Adler. And, when I was asked to do this, it really brought together so many different worlds because I grew up in a household where Shabbat was just every Friday. That was just part of the infrastructure of my household. My grandparents are Orthodox. My grandmother always taught me that religion wasn't necessarily about just beliefs, but rather serving as a moral compass. And that's always how I've seen it. And I find it to be more of a spiritual thing than anything else. And so, sports, which is what I do and what I've been doing since I was literally 20 years old. It's crazy to think about it, but I have been on air since I was 20 years old, which is a long time. And after a while, what's crazy is that it becomes your identity. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's a weird thing. And I know you guys will be able to relate to this from an athletic perspective because what we do, it's not a job, it's not a 9 to 5, it's a lifestyle. And what's crazy about this lifestyle is it comes with, I'm going to choose my words carefully, it comes with like a lot of nonsense. The world that we live in comes with a lot of nonsense, a lot of superficial, a lot of noise, as I call it. And so, one of the questions that the rabbi and I had discussed before getting up here, and I was like, I just want to get straight to the panel, and everyone wants to hear from you guys. But as far as how business and faith intersect for me personally, and I thought about it, and I thought, how does it intersect for me personally? It's not really a question I've had to ask myself, but it made me think of a story, and I'm gonna keep it real tight. It's a story that I'm sure you've all heard, and I'm sure I'm gonna butcher it right now. But essentially, two writers, they go to a mansion of a hedge fund billionaire, and they're sitting there and they're watching the view. And one of the writers says to the other writer, he's like, how does it feel that this billionaire hedge fund has made more money today than you did on your best selling novel ever? And the writer says to the other writer, he says, well, I have something that this billionaire hedge fund will never have. He goes, oh, yeah, what's that? And he said, enough. And I thought about that and I thought, that is how my faith and the path I've chosen intersect. I'm good with being content. I love what I do, and that's enough. And I'm not driven by outside forces or competitive nature or how much money or how much fame because it will never be enough. It will never be enough. And so, thank you. Thank you. And I think that that's something that each one of you encompass. You guys have such a phenomenal moral compass, and each one of us have had obstacles along the way, but I think we've all learned. And so we're going to talk about that. But first, let's individually hear from each of you. So thank you for listening.
Do I go with? Oh, sorry, Yiddish.
But radical, but it's like differential.
Down a little bit. Okay. All right, good. I think for me, um, I think now, I've entered into the business side. Obviously, I'm not playing basketball anymore. So, I'm very particular about, who I do business with, who I tend to just mingle with. I understand just from playing in the NBA, it taught me so much. So much of my ups and downs of my career, when I look at the downs, I'm looking at who I was hanging around. I'm looking at who I was being influenced by at the time. I'm looking at, just what I was idolizing at the time. When I look at my rise, I think about just how solid I was in my religion. When I was a child, I just prayed so much. I kept God first. Before every game, every time I went to sleep, like every day, all I was doing was praying, God, just please let me get out of this situation. Let me help my family. As I got older, especially when I got to New York, and things started moving really, really fast. And I got away from my parents, and I became the leader of my household, the head of my household. I didn't have as many rules. I didn't have as many people there to say, "Hey, man, put God first." I had people saying, "Hey, we're going to this party tonight, or we're going to buy this or buy that." So the further I got away, the more just rocky things got for me. And so I'm extremely blessed to be in this type of situation now. I work with the National Basketball Players Association, so I'm the union. So I get the opportunity to talk to the young guys, and then we talk like the most that we talk about, the main thing that we talk about is building a foundation. Guys building their foundation, and that's your accountant, and that's having just the right people around you. But I'm always first to tell them, like, you got to put God first. And I'm not here to tell you what religion to worship, or who to follow or who to pray to. But I can tell you, if you don't have God, if you don't have that at your core, life is hard enough. But to actually think that you are good enough to go through this journey by yourself, especially in the NBA, man, you're crazy. You're psycho. You got 65 guys coming every year after your spot. Every year. You got a trade deadline coming every year. And guys every year sit in the back of the room, and they act like they're too cool to ask questions. They're too cool to admit that they're feeling this. But it shows in their play. When I look at my ups and downs, I know I could look at my numbers that year and say, man, I was going through this, or I was going through that. I was getting killed mentally. Mentally, it was tearing me apart. But I had religion, and when I leaned into the religion, when I leaned into my wife and understood that my rock, my solid foundation was right there next to me, that's when things started to take off for me. So I know that's probably not answering your question, but I tend to kind of babble a little bit, so forgive me. But yeah, no, I'm not. I think, and I know we had a question later where we talked about just business and who you align yourself with. And I just, me personally, my parents used to always tell me all money ain't good money. And I think that's important to realize. And I passed up on some opportunities to partner or to align myself with certain people that could have got me a bigger check, but I just felt like that wasn't worth my soul. It wasn't worth people um, um, people's perception of me. And I've done enough to tarnish my own legacy, and now I'm on a rebuilding incline. I'm not trying to go backwards. So I hope that answered a little bit of it. But
Hello. I feel like I'm just gonna be really honest with you guys. I feel like I have an assignment, and I feel like I got the assignment wrong before I begin. And I just say that because we were coming together to, I thought, have like a 7-minute little talk, and then we were gonna have some questions. And so I wasn't really prepared, I think, to go into depth in the way that of the topics that we're talking about. But I'm just gonna say, I do have some slides that I had, and my thought was that I'm from Los Angeles, California. Um, I was born and raised here with my mom, who's a single mother. I have sisters, but for me, my mom, as you see this picture, she was 6'3" at that time. She's shrunk quite a bit now, but she was 6'3". My mom was very tall and beautiful, and we lived in Compton, California. And I looked up to my mom literally and figuratively because she was a woman who went after what she wanted. As a single parent, my mother was a mail carrier. She carried mail in Beverly Hills, and then she became a truck driver. She left carrying mail, and she bought an 18-wheeler truck. She went and learned how to drive a truck. At that time, she couldn't even drive a stick. And she went and she set my sisters and I down, and she said, if you give me 5 years, I can give you guys a better life. And that sacrifice to me was everything with my mom. So that's a picture of myself and my older sister. And I felt like I learned to be a follower very early as my sister was 5 years older than me. And the beautiful thing about it was that at that time I wasn't like Lisa Leslie. I was just little Dee Dee, which my sister's name is Dion, and they called her Dee Dee. So they just called me little Dee Dee, which made me feel like I didn't really have an identity yet, but it was okay because I enjoyed and really loved following my sister. I've always been a kid who just loved really hard. I don't know. I'm a Cancer. I'm a middle child, so you can just take that. But being a middle child, I have a little sister who was born, and with my sisters, I just really loved them. I was very passionate, but the best thing I think that happened was me following my older sister. She went to a church that was down the street from our home, and so she walked to that church, and I followed her. And I went to church, and in that church, it was a Christian church, and the pastor said that, you don't have to, have all this money or all these things, but if you just believe, if you have faith, right, that you can be saved. And I heard those words and I accepted Christ, and I really felt like, yes, I wanted to be saved. I wanted to have a better life. I wanted just more for my family. And I didn't know how to give that to them, obviously, at 7 years old, but I knew that's what I wanted. And so having my sisters was amazing, but my older sister ended up getting pregnant early. I said my mom was a truck driver. She drove an 18-wheeler truck cross country. So my mom was gone and we had an au pair. So then I had the responsibility of taking care of my little sister, who's 8 years younger than me. And so that put me in a situation where I felt like I was a very prayerful child and just trying to figure it out. My mom would send us money and I would try and take care of my younger sister and make sure she ate. And then whatever she didn't eat, I would eat. So we kind of had one of those types of situations where you're not sure if everything's going to be paid for and taken care of, but we had our home. And so what I love about this life that I had here in Los Angeles in Compton was that it made me realize the importance of having faith and just striving to want to be the best at something. I wanted to be successful. And the great thing about my mom is that she instilled in my sisters and I that we could do anything that we wanted to. You have to put your mind to it, stay prayerful, focus on it, and you can do it. And so watching my mom drive an 18-wheeler truck with her nails done and her lipstick tucked in her bra was one of those things that made me just feel like I wanted to be like my mom. I wanted to be a hard worker. I wanted to be able to give back. I wanted to be able to inspire people, but I also wanted to maintain and have my femininity because I love the fact that my mom drove a truck and there was always obviously millions of men who were truck drivers, but to be a woman truck driver, you didn't see that often, but she just was so beautiful. And that was something that, I wanted to be. So the interesting thing is that we had to move around quite a bit. But in my movement, I learned so much from living with different people, whether it was my grandmother, who was a really strong, devout Christian. I got a chance to go to church with my grandma quite a bit, which made me really fall in love with the Lord, reading the Bible, just being a person who was believing that somehow I'm going to make it. Somehow I'm going to find success. And I realized that, no matter what my mom would do, we didn't quite have enough money for me to be able to go to a college. And I knew that. So I picked up a basketball in seventh grade, and picking up that basketball obviously was a life changer because now you know my name. But at one time I used to sign my name everywhere. And my mom was like, "Why are you always signing your name?" And I'm like, "Because one day I'm going to give out autographs." And she said, "Well, who are you going to give autographs out to?" And I was like, "I don't know. I haven't decided who my audience is yet. But when I do, I'll let you know." So again, here I am. I was only about 5'4", 5'5", but somehow I was 6 foot in the sixth grade. I wore a size 12 shoe when I was 12 years old. And I just kept praying like, "Lord, oh my God, like this is not funny anymore," because I was so tall. And then, I went to middle school and it's sort of like I saw this girl, her name was Sharon. They called her Shay. And I was like, "How come everybody knows her name?" And it was like, "Because she's on the basketball team." And I'm like, "That's it. I'm going to be on the basketball team." I had no desire really to play basketball. I just wanted to be popular. And I think you see a lot of kids these days, obviously with social media, popularity is everything, right? But I always had this idea that God had a plan for me. And in that plan, I would write down my goals. My short-term goals were goals I wanted to achieve within 1 year, and my long-term goals were goals I wanted to achieve within 5 years. And so I kept writing down these goals year after year. High school, I became the top player in the nation in basketball in high school, a ninth grader. 10th grade, I had another amazing year and I just kept practicing, playing with men, playing basketball. And I just got my grades up. So I had really good grades. I was playing basketball. And maybe you've heard, but I one day scored 101 points in a half of a game. Um, yeah. So when I scored this 101 points, the next day I had interviews from every station, whatever. We only had like channels 2 through 13 back then. You guys, some of you remember that. So I had interviews with everybody, and I would do all these interviews, and I watched the videotape, the VCR that is, and I realized I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not articulating my words, and I'm saying So it was at that point that I realized I wanted to improve how I spoke. I wanted to major, go to USC and major in communications. I got a chance to get a scholarship and an offer from every single university, Division 1, 2, and 3 in the nation, and I chose USC. Once I continued to play basketball, and then I got recognized by Team USA, and that was another life-changing moment. I made my first USA team as a junior in high school. I was one of the youngest players to ever play on the Team USA. Well, now I have 8 gold medals. I have 6 gold medals, 4 from the Olympics and 2 world championships. But I say that to say is a lot of the things that I've been able to accomplish is because I've been, one, a very prayerful person. I've always put God first in my life, and I've always shared that. I've shared that with every place that I've gone. I always try to tell kids when I speak, if I only reach one of you today, then I've done my job, because the important thing to me is that if you've ever met me, you had a chance to see me, or you were a fan, I want for people to realize and see the light. And the light is not my light, but it's his light. And so that's how I've always just tried to carry myself, and taking care of my brand is really important because it's my name, it's my family name, it's the name that my mother carried. And so for me, the importance of that is just protecting my family. I'm very family oriented. So I also added in here that I've always been writing letters to God, and this is what date does I say? 2000. I need glasses now, but in 2000, no matter where I went in the world, basketball's taken me all over the world. From Cuba, I played in Russia. I lived in Russia and played in Russia. I lived in Italy. I've been all over the world because I picked up a basketball, but God's always been with me. One of the times that I played in Russia, I then got a chance to go to Jerusalem. I got a chance to go to Israel, I should say. So I went to Israel, to Tel Aviv, went to Jerusalem, and then I went to Eilat. And when I was there, it's amazing. It's the only country I've ever been to where people ask you what religion you are. I never experienced that anywhere else. And I was just interested, whether it was the cab driver or somebody at the hotel. They asked me maybe 3 or 4 different times, like, what religion are you? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm Christian. And then the experience was that you get a chance to go, as Eric said, to go and experience a part of Israel in the way that how you believe. And what I loved about that was that they were very open, because if you're a Muslim, there's an experience for the Muslim, and there's an experience for Christian, there's an experience for every religion. And I love that. So I got a chance to go, and, at the end of my Christian experience, there's a tomb where Jesus laid and where he rose. And it says on there, do not look for me, for I have risen. And it was very interesting to me, because the point of that is that God is in us, right? And for those of us that are Christian, we know that Jesus is in us. It's not that you go and look for him, or that you have to take this journey to the land of Mecca. It's not that. It's the idea that each person has their own spiritual experience, but that to know God is to have God within you. And so for me, I get a chance to look at people, and I see, just as Eric had said earlier, like, you try to look for God in people. It has nothing to do with how different we are, because we have a lot of similarities. And if we get to that point to learning how to be allies for one another, I think we would be doing a much better service to all of our religions, regardless of what we believe, to learn to be allies for one another and for believers. So, thank you. And so I got married. Oh my gosh. So my husband, and I bring him up because, one, because he's here and he's all embarrassed now. He didn't know about this slide. But we've been married for 20 years. And the beautiful thing about being married is, I remember on the day we got married, and we had our dance. What is it called? Like, where you have your first dance at the reception, right? And then, what is it called? Huh? The first dance, I don't know. I don't know the term, but, so we had our first dance, and then I had, like, I felt like the spirit came over me, and I was just crying, and it was like I got it, because I understood that the connection is that, it's a relationship with God. It's not necessarily the person you're marrying. Like, yes, you want to do right, but you're really making a new commitment to God in that moment. So, anyways, I say Michael and I have been married for 20 years, and I love the fact that we have such a spiritual connection because he is a man of God who has his own relationship, which makes our relationship work so beautifully. So, hey, babe. Okay, the next one. And so Michael served in, he went to the Air Force Academy. He served in Desert Storm and Desert Shield. Is that right, babe? Yes, that's him. And and he was a captain on the 767 for UPS. He just retired. So 30 years of being a captain. And it's just beautiful to have a love that I understand why God, oh my God, God loves us so much because we're his children, and to bring a union together that has been just amazing. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Okay. And then last thing is we actually had kids. So our kids, wow, talk about unconditional love, right? All of us that have family and kids, it's like you understand God so much better just because you understand the love that you have for your children, right? Like you would sacrifice and do anything for them. And that's just the beauty of it. So I feel like every day we are reminded of God's blessing and his grace, because if you have a child or anyone that you have this unconditional love for, you know how God feels about us. So I'm very happy to have these two young babies, but now they're older. So again, you could go. Yeah, you can go through. These are just my kids growing up, and I could not share the fact that I'm 6'5" and my husband is 6'7". So of course, you can go to the next slide. My kids just kept growing too. My daughter is 6'3". She's a freshman in college now. She's a believer. She got baptized when she was like 8 years old, which I was like, no, it's too early, but I couldn't convince her otherwise. So she loves the Lord. And then my son just got baptized 2 years ago. So I'm just really happy about them having their own relationship with God, because that's, I think, part of our responsibility is to make sure our children have, a moral compass, as you said, just being spiritually. And then when it comes to business, we have a real estate business that we've been able to be very successful with in Florida. We have Airbnbs there on the water in Delray Beach. And it's just been a blessing. I think God, again, just living in the overflow and being faithful and trying to do the right thing and let God's light shine. That being a part of a real estate company is really being of service to people. All we do is try to help people, whether it's making their dreams or helping them sell their homes or even move across country. It's just been a great opportunity. We've helped athletes and entertainers and have had some really great clients. And the beauty of it is we get a chance to pick and choose who we want to work with and when we want to work with them, but we want to help people. And when you're in real estate, it gives you an amazing opportunity to be able to help and give back. Yeah, my daughter's older now, so there she is, 18. You go to the next slide. And my son now just got taller than me. He's 6'6". Oh my gosh, he's 15. And he plays basketball and he goes to Highlands Christian Academy. So both my kids are doing well. Our family's doing well. And my last slide is really just one of my favorite prayers. It's the prayer of Jabez, a prayer that I've been reading since I think I was probably in college. And it's an interesting prayer because it's found in I think it's in Chronicles. Oh, there you go. First Chronicles. It says 4:10 right there at the bottom. But the reason why it's a beautiful prayer, because in Chronicles is usually just giving you, all of these names, and then all of a sudden this prayer appears there, and it's just a prayer of love, of blessings, and that God would keep His hand on us and to then bless us and keep us from evil, that we may not cause pain. And it's just a prayer that I pray that me, my family, and everybody that I know is blessed indeed. The last thing I want to do is say thank you, a special thank you to Bradley, because Bradley is a dear friend of mine. I love Bradley, who he's also my lawyer, but he's still a good friend of mine. Um, when it comes to just being connected to Judaism or the Jewish community and friends and family, I feel like we were just truly allies. And that's really what it's about. Like, we understand each other. We work so well together. We have such a level of integrity and trust. And so I want to really appreciate you. I appreciate you also, Saul and Sarah, and just our business together. Working with Fabric for me is not just about, um, having this opportunity, but it's about bringing people together. And if we don't do and have actions, I guess, to who we are, then what are we doing? So again, I thank you guys. I feel like I got the assignment so wrong on what I was supposed to do, but thank you for having me. And it's just a blessing to be here. I missed it.
Thank you so much. Amazing, amazing. That was amazing. My name is Tamir. First of all, just humbled and honored to be on the stage with such incredible people. Eddy, I love you so much. Love all you guys, but Eddy's not. Eddy's like, man, I love you. There's people in this room. There's so many people in this room that I love so much. Some of the most important people in my life, and thank you. I just want everyone to know that I love you and I appreciate you so much. And thank you, everyone that made this possible. And thank you to everyone for coming here today. It's a very, very special moment. So thank you very, very much. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, in an observant Jewish home. My grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. She survived 2 concentration camps. It was too painful for her to ever tell us what she went through. So she passed away without us ever knowing what she went through. But she was everything to me in my life. And I was playing one-on-one with my brother in Baltimore, and he beat me. He was older than me, my older brother. He was 7 years older than me. And after I lost, I came in the kitchen and I was crying. And my mother said to my brother said to my mother, like, why is Tamir crying? You know, it's just basketball. Why does he take basketball so seriously? I'm the older brother. Like, of course I'm supposed to beat him. Like, why does he cry when he loses? And I said to my mom, because it's not just a game to me. Like, I really love basketball. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I want to play in college. I want to play professionally. So you have to understand, like, there's barely any Division I scholarships in the world, okay? It's very hard to get a Division I scholarship. Now imagine getting a Division I scholarship and then telling the coach I can't play from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday because I celebrate the Sabbath. It's basically impossible at that point, right? Especially back then. But my mom just looked at me with her eyes and she's like, let's go for it, you know? And even though she didn't know anything about basketball, so I had their support. Which was really great. And I also had a coach that I met, which was also really great. But one thing that was really interesting to me that happened, I started going to the park by myself. I was the only Jewish kid. I'd ride my bike to the park. Basically, all the other players, they were African-American. They were much older than me. I was just like a young Jewish kid wearing my kippah. And from day one, I became instant family at the park. That became my home away from home, even though I was the only Jewish person there. And then my parents started signing me up for basketball camps. And again, at basketball camp, I was the only Jewish kid. Look at that. I was the only Jewish kid at basketball camp. And they would say, like, hey, why do you come to lunch with like a little paper bag? You know, why don't you eat lunch like everybody else here? And I just say, because I'm Jewish, I have to eat kosher food. And everybody at the camp's like, okay. It was just like, I was like, everyone was like respecting me. Like, wow, I love this basketball community. This is amazing. And I kept on going and going and going. And when I was 17 years old, I was ranked the 25th best player in the country. And I started getting a lot of scholarship offers. And went to all boys yeshiva. Nobody in the school ever played college basketball in the school's history, ever. And then one day, University of Maryland said they were coming to watch you play. And they came to watch me play. And after one game, they offered me a scholarship. And I said to coach, you know, that's my dream opportunity. Like, it's everything I'm going to commit. I'm going to play at Maryland, but there's only one thing I can't play on Shabbat. Play basketball on Shabbat. And originally they said that they would accommodate me. And I had 700 media requests that week. ABC, NBC, CBS. Jerry Seinfeld did a full skit about me on Saturday Night Live. Howard Stern called my house. My parents didn't let me talk to him. Then Sports Illustrated called. And they came to watch me play, and they nicknamed me the Jewish Michael Jordan. And they said they were going to put a 4-page article about me in Sports Illustrated. And they sent that's the picture right there. Wow, I can't believe that just showed up. But basically what happened in that picture was NBA photographers like, let me see how you shoot. And we're on the same court where I lost the one-on-one to my brother back when I was a kid. And I just stopped him and I said, you know, this isn't just about basketball. I know 4 pages in Sports Illustrated. A lot of people are going to see this. I want this to try to inspire people that have to beat the odds in their life. And he's like, how do you want to do that? And I took out my tefillin, my phylacteries, and my prayer book, and I said, well, this is how we pray. This is how Jewish people pray. Everybody thought this was impossible, and now I'm going to play Division I basketball. And that was a picture that went in Sports Illustrated. So um, seemingly everything was like really, really great for me. I got to get invited to all these special camps, and that's the first time I met Eddy, 1999 NBA camp. But those guys right there saved my life that you see in that picture right now. Basically, things started getting really crazy with the media attention, and my high school asked me to leave because our gym could only fit 200 people, and now there's like 5,000 people coming to high school games, and they had to start renting college arenas, and the college arenas couldn't fit, okay? Like ESPN, 60 Minutes, everyone was coming to every game, and the school's like, we can't handle this. Like, you got to go somewhere else for your senior year. It's out of control. So I was stuck. I could not find a school for my senior year. I would accommodate the Judaism and the basketball. I couldn't find it. And then one day I got a phone call from a Christian priest. And the Christian priest said, we read about you in the paper. I'm the principal of a predominantly African-American Christian school in DC. I'm from Baltimore. It's not that far away. He's like, I want to invite you to come to our school. I said, that's like really nice, but what am I going to do at a Christian school? I'm Jewish. He said, because our gym is much bigger. We read about that problem. We're more accustomed to dealing with the media. And because we're Seventh-day Adventist Christians, we don't play basketball on Shabbat either. So we'll take all your credits and we'll welcome you. So I went to the Christian school as the only Jewish kid in the whole school. And it was a Christian community that saved me when I really needed it the most. And going to the Christian school was such a blessing for me. My best friend at the school was Brian Wright, who's now the GM of the San Antonio Spurs. And because of my success at the Christian school, I got invited to play at the Capital Classic All-Star game. It's like one of the top All-Star games in the country, and I won the MVP against the best players in the country. And that would have never happened had I not gone to the Christian school. But as time came closer for me to play at Maryland, coach called me into his office. I was already playing there every evening with the guys. And you see right there, Big D, Derek Good, and Muhammad right there on that picture right there. Maryland basically said, if you want to stay, you could stay and play, but you're going to have to play on Shabbat. And I said, look, I love this team. This is my dream opportunity, but I can't play on Shabbat. And I gave the University of Maryland back a scholarship, and they won the national championship. I would have been on that team. But these guys right here, Muhammad and Big Derek and Sam, none of them are Jewish, okay? This is one of the craziest things in college sports ever. None of these guys are Jewish, okay? They call up their coach at Towson University and said, hey, we just read about Tamir in the paper. He could have been on the best team in the country, but he didn't want to play on the Sabbath. Is there any way we could help this kid out? Those guys right there, Muhammad is Muslim, right there. Derek's Christian, Sam's Christian. They called up coach and said, hey, can we help this kid out? Coach comes over my house. Okay, this is like the craziest thing ever. My father, blessed memory, comes out with a Jewish calendar. Okay, Jewish calendar is crazy. I don't know if anyone ever gone to a Jewish calendar, right? Jewish calendar is crazy. We have 2 non-Jewish coaches in our living room, and my father starts flipping through the holidays. Jewish New Year's in September. Coach is like, September? Like, he's like, well, yeah, these are dates he can't play. Writes it down, September. Yom Kippur can't play. Sukkot can't play. We're going over all the Shabbat times and all the holidays. Coach is handwriting this one by one. Calls the NCAA, calls our league and says, listen to this. Is there any way we can change the entire schedule? Flights, TV contracts, game scheduling, all for one Jewish athlete, and he wants to wear his kippah on the court. Can we make that happen? And they agreed. Until today, I'm the only person in American sports history to play Division I basketball on a full athletic scholarship without having to play on Shabbat or any Jewish holidays because of those guys right there. I had an amazing freshman year. I lived out my dream. I did something that was like impossible. Forever grateful. But unfortunately, my coach, who helped me so much, changed the schedule for me. He got fired during spring break of our freshman year. And he comes over to me and he's like, Tamir, there's going to be a press conference tomorrow. I don't want you to stay. I don't want you to hear about it in the newspaper, so I'm going to tell you right now. What's up, coach? They're firing me, and there's going to be a press conference tomorrow. Don't stay at Towson because the new coach isn't going to accommodate you the way that I did. And I didn't listen to coach. I felt like the school had done so much for me. It would be rude for me to leave Towson. And unfortunately, the new coach came in, and he was very, very unhealthy situation. And he ended up assaulting me in the locker room really badly. Campus police came in, and I never played another game of college basketball again. I went home and I was broken. I left Muhammad. Muhammad was my roommate, like emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Like I was absolutely broken. I never wanted to play basketball again. I come back home. Athletic director calls me. He's like, I know you warned us about this, but you can stay on scholarship. You don't need to play on the team. But I just never went back. I was so broken. And then one day I woke up and I said, you know what? Everybody in this world has a mission. God believes in everybody, and mine is to try to do good through basketball, and I can't let someone else take me away from my mission. And I got myself back in shape, and I got a phone call from Maccabi Tel Aviv in Israel, Coach David Blatt. He was the first Israeli to ever coach in the NBA. He coached the Cavs. He said, Tamir, what do you think about coming over to Israel and play? I said, Coach, I would love that. So came over to Israel. I signed a 3-year contract with Maccabi Tel Aviv. We had 3 NBA players on that team, and it was like more than a dream come true because I got to live with my grandmother, who was a Holocaust survivor. And that's look at Eddy in Israel, man. And then, but very soon into my first contract at Maccabi, my agent called me up and he said, I'm sorry, you've been traded. And I lost more money in that deal when I was 20 years old than I ever made again in professional basketball. I got traded to another team, and seemingly like that was the worst thing that could ever happen to me on paper. I got to the new city and I got a phone call from the local hospital. They said that there's a kids in the hospital that read about you in the paper. They want to meet you. Can you come to the hospital? And I said, sure, but I need help with arrangements. I just moved to this new city. She's like, okay, but do you mind if I bring my friend along? I said, no. She brings her friend along. And I meet her friend. She says, I'm very similar to you. I said, yeah, why? She's like, I just moved from America too. I'm studying and I'm volunteering here in Israel because I had all these athletic scholarship opportunities in America, but they wanted me to compete on Shabbat. So instead of competing on Shabbat, I gave the scholarships back and I moved here. And I looked at her, I said, we have the same story. Is there any way we could get married? And thank God she said yes. And 2 weeks later, we got engaged. And thank God now we've been blessed with 5 kids. And I would have never met my wife had I not been assaulted or lost the biggest contract of my life. But I ended up playing for 7 years professionally, blew my knee out. And after I blew my knee out, I asked coach, I said, maybe the doctor's wrong. Can you rebound for me? And he's like, no, you're done. I went to my locker. There was already another player in my locker before I got a chance to get my stuff out. And I took that pain and I said, you know what? I don't need you to rebound for me. I thought of something, a device that'll help the next generation of basketball players. So I went back to America. I went to Home Depot and I started putting together a device in the plumbing aisle. My idea was to create a multi-angle pitchback. So in basketball, usually the coaches stand underneath the net and they pass you the ball out. Well, my thing was like, we never really catch the ball in a straight angle in basketball. Like if you're in the post, you're getting the ball. If you're coming off screens, you're getting the ball all over the place and you got to learn how to set your hands and feet. So I'm like, I'm going to create a multi-angle pitchback where I could catch the ball from every angle. So I'm in Home Depot building this thing and the plumber taps me on my shoulder. He thinks I'm building something for the bathroom. I'm fooling around with the pipes. He says, son, that ain't going to work. You're going to mess your whole bathroom up. I said, no, I'm doing something for basketball. Build my little prototype, take it to professional. Next thing you know, Zone 190 is being bought in seconds by NBA teams. Boom, 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 boom. They're loving this thing. It's a feature product at the Women's Final Four. I'm like, wow, I told my wife, this is amazing. Next thing I know, a huge company, sporting company, sends me an email. They highlight my patent number in the email and they said, we love your device. We see it as the future of our product line of basketball. I said, okay, let's go, let's talk. And then a couple weeks later, they sent me an email, said, actually, we're going to make our own. And they stole it, and they got theirs in Dick's Sporting Goods, and they put us out of business overnight. I told my wife I'm never getting into startups again. I just started focusing on basketball clinics, camps in Jerusalem, which was going really, really well all the way up until COVID. And then COVID hit, everything was shut down. Couldn't do the camps and the clinics. So my daughter said, why don't you think of something else? Go back into the startups. And I said, you know what? I do have an idea. I'm going to create an antimicrobial or moisture wicking net that when you make a shot, it'll disinfect the ball because the ball is full of germs. It hits the floor every time you dribble. It's disgusting. And you touch your face, really gross if you think about it. I'll create a net that disinfects the ball and also dries the ball so it's not a slippery during the game. Next thing you know, I get a phone call from Dick's Sporting Goods. 10 years later, they don't even know about the first product, what happened. They say, hey, we want to feature your net nationwide in America. And I said, God is unbelievable, because if like you were supposed to be in Dick's Sporting Goods, you'll eventually get there one way or another, because that's God's blessing for you. So they brought me back to Baltimore. They brought me back to Baltimore and they said, where do you want to have your grand opening? And I said, why don't we do a Dick's Sporting Goods in Baltimore? I'm from Baltimore. And they said, okay, go for it. Get to Dick's Sporting Goods, and I lift up my head, and every single one of my guys that were in the locker room that night that I got assaulted from, including my original coach, came out to support me, including Muhammad. And I never got a chance to say bye to them ever again. I just went straight from the locker room, never saw them again. So I'm glad that I had that moment. And that's when I met Fabric, and been one of the greatest blessings of my life to be part of a company that is literally bettering the world through technology. And I'm so grateful for Team Fabric and everything that we're building together. And God willing, it's just the beginning. Thank you guys very, very, very much. Only blessings to everybody. Thank you.
I mean, first of all, on behalf of the entire audience, captivated by each of your stories. And I'll tell you, I got into this industry not to read highlights and not to do game play-by-plays. My passion has always been about stories. And the thing that each of you have in common, there's a few things, but I would say the word that comes to mind is resilience, right? You've each had to go through obstacles and actually get better afterwards. And so when I was thinking about this and hearing your stories, I couldn't help but to think to myself, okay, to be one of the greatest at what you do, right? And we're not talking about just the greatest in junior high, but I mean the next level and the next level and the next level. There's a mentality that it's do anything to win. And that there are no obstacles and find a way to win. So if you're balancing faith and you're balancing the competitive nature of just win, how do you each do that? Eddie, let's start with you.
Hello? Is this on? No? Testing, test. Okay. For me, I think it's easy, especially if you kind of rooted in, religion. If you have that North Star, if you have that, if you have something inside you that I'm not willing to leverage, I'm not willing to, give that away. And I think it's funny because I saw, and it's kind of crazy, but I saw something on social media the other day, and it was meant to be funny, but it was like, this is what church used to be like for me, right? And it was a grown man, but he got his face like a child, right? And he was listening to like a fake pastor preach. And he was talking about, don't do this, or you're gonna go to hell, and you're gonna go to hell, and you go to hell. And that's honestly how I grew up. I grew up in a church that was like that, where it kind of scared you into doing things the right way. And I feel like it was a little overboard, and I feel like I didn't need as much of that because I wasn't that bad a kid. But when I look at the world and I look at Chicago, my hometown, it's like you can tell there's no church, there's no North Star where anyone can just be like, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. Even if my parents aren't home, even if, I don't have two nickels to rub together, I'm not gonna do that. And I think that's what separates a lot of us. I'm sure Lisa can have similar stories where, when she grew up, there's so many people that she grew up with that just didn't make it, that just fell off the side. Like some people kind of lose the race just because they have no limits to what they won't do. I had limits to what I wouldn't do. I had a mom that would put her hands on me, first of all, and I had a father who I respected. And it was funny hearing you talk about your signature. It was like, man, I did the same thing. Like when I was growing up, I literally stole my dad's signature because I love how he wrote his name. And I just always would practice it. I'm like, Dad, is this right? Is this right? And to this day, I still sign my signature just like my dad signed his signature. But I did a lot of dumb stuff like my dad did a lot of dumb stuff. He wasn't perfect. So a lot of the things that he did that I noticed, those are the things I kind of emulated growing up. I kind of slipped off path, but I always found myself coming back because I had that where, you know what, that's not me. And a lot of times you just got to know that, especially when you get into professional sports, you get out here in the world, and now you have social media where you have all these different lifestyles and all these different profiles that I want to be like that or I want to be like that. You got to be able to say that's not for me. And I think that's kind of what separates a lot of us athletes that make it to the level that we're able to make it to. Now, once we get there, it's harder because now you got so much money and you got so many people saying yes to you. And as long as you're playing good, your team they're not really gonna say nothing to you. I mean, you see that today in today's NBA, where you have a guy who last year was almost the face of the NBA, was pretty much the face of the NBA. This happens every year where you have a guy who's almost the face of the NBA. And he just has so many like yes men around him. He has his parents at half court, and nobody could say anything to this guy. And he's getting all this money, he's getting $50 million a year. What can you say to him? If he doesn't have something inside of him that says, I'm not gonna do that, this isn't for me, he's gonna be lost. Because the NBA is a business. Like, and I don't think people understand that. The guys that play don't really understand that. The NBA is a business. You are a business. And so that's what I try to bring to guys. Like I bring my North Star into the room wherever I go. And I tell guys, like, I know what you're doing. I sat in that seat. I know what's pulling at you. And it's even crazier now because you don't got to go far to get to it and to see the kind of temptation that I would normally have to see on movies or I would have to be out in the nightlife. Now you can get it at 10 o'clock in the morning. You could get temptation at any time. So it's different, but you gotta have something in you that says, I'm not gonna do that.
I love the phrase North Star, and at least I saw you shaking your head. And there was two things. Eddie, you mentioned that Lisa worked on that signature, and I'll say it was your destiny, right? Like I remember the first time when we did that interview years ago, my takeaway was yes, this was a incredibly talented woman. But at the same time, my biggest takeaway was that there was just good energy. There's just positivity. So let me ask you, what was your North Star and when did you know that that was your North Star?
I think for me, I've just never been willing to sell my soul for anything. I want for the Lord to know my name at the end of my days. I want to represent. I think my husband and I talk about this all the time. Like it's not common to be uncommon and to not follow the masses and your spirit. It's just if you try to stay in tune with your spirit every day of like what's right and wrong. And we kind of laugh sometimes because he's a rule follower and I'm a rule follower. Like I just follow the rules. Like what are the rules? And whatever the rules are, it's like what does my mom say to do and what not to do? I'm okay to just do what I'm supposed to do. But I have siblings where we've come from the same household, same information, and I'm like, bro, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. So to me, I feel like it's easy to just follow the rules. And so I feel like if regardless of what your religion is, you have some form of some documents that you should be reading or following. And I just feel like it's easy, but remember it's a choice and we have a lot of distractions every day. So every single day you have to get up and make the choice to do the right thing. And I think I was just the kind of kid where like Eddie said, like my mom was 6'3". Like my mom's not playing any games. Whether she's home or calling on the phone, it's like you know exactly what the rules are, where you're supposed to be, and what you should be doing. And you know what the consequences are when you don't. And I know that people look and go, oh, well, you shouldn't. We were chastised and we were disciplined because my mom demanded that. Because as a single mother, when she's working and when she gets home, the house should be a certain kind of way. Our rooms, which we were blessed to really have our own rooms, should be clean. And I just happen to be the kind of kid that was just very neat and clean. And mom, come look at my stuff. And she'd come look at my room and then she'd go to my sister's room. And my sister's like, I am going to kill you because her room was like a mess. So I feel like part of it was in me. And I just had that desire again, once I accepted Christ, that I wanted to do what is right. And am I perfect? No, but when you're off track too. When you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, where you're like, okay, you need to repent. This is not the right thing. These are not the right choices. And I just feel like I'm not saying that it's easy, but life is already hard enough. Now you're going to add vices and other things to make it more difficult. That doesn't make sense to me logically. But yes, I'm different. I don't drink, I don't smoke. everybody's like, we're gonna go hang out. I'll hang out, but don't be offended if I have a water. That I'm okay. Like I'm a great time with just water. And so I just feel like you have to be comfortable with who you are and whose you are, and just make those choices. I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. But I've been a very confident young girl. And I think it just turned into me as a woman. Now, me as a player on the court, no, she's not nice. I'm not gonna not tell you the truth. I was tough, I'm physical, I will fight you, like all of those things. But I really had to use that as an alter ego, because off the court, I would never do those things. And I had to learn to be tough. It's like get hit or hit first. I'm gonna go ahead and hit first. So basketball, I think with me, I went to chapel before every game. I held Bible studies because I really had to work with, when you are playing a sport that that demands so much fight and heart and determination. It pulls something out of you that doesn't feel like you're being godly all the time. And that is a challenge. And I think it's also a challenge when you're off the court. And like Eddie was saying, there's so much access to so many things. But I used to, I didn't go out with my teammates. They would go to the club and do all these things, get back on the bus the next day. Some people reek of alcohol. And I hear the stories and I just go, oh, thank God I didn't go. Like, I'm just happy I didn't participate. And I'm not judging. I've never been judging, but don't judge me. Don't be mad because I don't want to participate, and I'm okay with that. And I felt like my goal, my job, my calling was, one, my voice. Two was to be a fisherman of men, like to bring more people, to hold Bible studies. We might start out with a team. Every year your team changes because people get traded and things. You might have four believers. And my goal is try to get 8 or 9. And hey, this is what we're doing. Hey, if you guys want to come shoot around before you go out on the court, we're going to go pray. That's where I am. And I'm not judging if you don't come, and I'm not judging what you do in your life, but also don't judge me. Allow me to be myself in this space, be a believer, and I'm going to talk and try and encourage people individually. I'm not going to beat anybody over the head, but I just feel like that standard, that North Star is like, it is in you. And it is just something that you hold yourself to because you know that there is a higher power that exists. And for me, I'm just not willing to sacrifice my life choices every single day to sell my soul. Mm-mm. Well, that's just oh, big.
I think that's so well put, and my dad calls it just do the right thing when no one's looking. If you just do the right thing, it's easy to do the right thing when you got an audience, right?
It also applies in business. So that level of integrity as a person, because I know we're also talking about business, but it also applies in business and how you work with people and how you show up and how you keep your word and do the things that you say that you're going to do. And I believe that I've had success in so many levels of life just based on how I show up and how I treat people. How you treat the president and how you treat the janitor. Those are two human beings that deserve the same amount of respect and love and hellos. And I feel like the way that my brand is because of how I've treated people in the relationships, where there's been teammate relationships or somebody working in the forum, that I'll still see and give a hug to, or tip somebody or whatever it is, just how you give and how you show up. Like, it costs us nothing to be kind. It just doesn't. And I thank my mom for teaching me those types of, like, you can't receive anything with a closed fist, and we're all God's children. You can't believe that we're all God's children and then walk out and treat people like crap. So I don't know. I could go on and on, but I'm just a lover. I love people. I love the Lord, and I just try to make those choices every single day, and I always have.
I love it. I also love that you said you're a rule follower because okay, so inner dialogue, right? You say you're a rule follower, and I'm thinking to myself, same. I get it, right? And I'm thinking I am, but there's moments when I'm not. So it's sort of like, and then you said I also, oddly enough, and it's weird that I'm sharing it right now, but I've never sipped any alcohol in my life. Never touched it. Sure, at Shabbat, I was the only one. You're allowed to have it as a kid, apparently, when you're having wine. Never touched it. Never touched a drug. Never smoked a cigarette. Um, no judgment.
Right, you look so good.
Well, you're kind. You're kind. But you're saying you're a role follower, and then I'm thinking, like in my head, yeah, yeah, same, same, get that. And I'm thinking, I am, but when it comes to when it's time to get the interview, right? And you're okay, let's go, right? Let it get chippy. You figure out a way to get this. You find that. It's a different mentality. So it's this weird juxtaposition. And I thought about you, Tamir, and how here you are going against the grain, and that could not have been easy. This is a time when you wearing a kippah on the court. I remember reading about that and thinking, "That's the coolest thing I ever heard." And you were like this example of, like, you were making being Jewish cool. And, I think it kinda goes back to maybe you guys saw the Super Bowl commercial, with the blue square where there was a kid walking through the hall, and I had so many thoughts about it, and I'll be honest, my one of my takeaways was it kinda looked like this kid was just, like, this not cool kid, right, who was sorta weak, and I love that they were trying to share this message, but that was one of the takeaways, whereas with you, you brought a whole new spirit of being Jewish. So first of all, thank you, and second of all, the question is, how were you able to manage that line of being Jewish and going against the grain? That takes a lot of strength.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes in basketball, there's like this whole concept of like, I'm gonna prove that person wrong. I don't know if you guys heard that. Like, this person, I'm gonna get all my energy to prove somebody wrong, right? But I didn't grow up like that. I grew up where you go after your inner potential and what God sees in you. Because like if all your energy is to prove somebody else wrong, so there's like a limit to that. Like you could probably prove somebody wrong, but then what, right? God's seeing you all the way up here. So why would you limit yourself? And it comes from like a negative energy of like a negative side of our soul. Like I'm gonna get back at somebody. I'm gonna show them like, but we're like our godly soul is like optimism, sharing, caring, working hard, believing, and that's how, like, we grew up. Where do you make your decisions from? Like, your godly soul or the non part of your godly soul? So, like, I think because I grew up in a home like that, that, like, kinda, like, helped me, like, you know, see other people, like you say, as God children, a part of God in them, and, like, see my mission that way and not have it boggle down with negativity. And I guess the best way to answer that, and this is if for any parents out there, um, I hit a game-winning shot when I was a kid, and back in the '90s, like, there was this thing called, like, raising the roof. I don't know if you thought you were the man if you thought you were the man, you would raise the roof, right? So I hit a game-winning shot, and I raised the roof, and my father my father, bless his memory, was in the stands, and he gave me a hug, and we were just about to drive out after the game, and he looked in the mirror of the car. I was in the back seat, and he's like, "Look, I'm really proud of you for hitting the game-winning shot." He's like, "We don't raise the roof." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because we let your game do the talking. Like, God, you have to practice humility all the time. Basketball, it does not come from you. It's a blessing from God." And I didn't realize it till I was a father and my kids play now. But looking back on my life, elementary, my dad got to see me play elementary, middle, high school, college, and pros. And guess what? He never said one thing to me in my entire life about basketball. He never said, "You should get back on defense. You should have made a pass." He was always willing to listen, but the only thing he ever said, it was that one time, practice humility. Everything comes from God. Because in his mind, if I understood that, then I already understood everything else. So,
I wanted to say something. Listening to your story is really inspiring, but I want to also say I think it's kind of on my heart to recognize that Black people, we are some of the most loving people on this planet. We are not taught racism, discrimination. And so the fact that you felt so comfortable in all those different settings and you talk about these young Black boys, it's because we really don't have in our hearts that type of feeling. Like if you hoop or you don't. Like, man, you playing or you're not. Like that's all we come to. And I think the beauty of sports, why I really love playing basketball, was because even though we don't hear, like when we're actually on the court, we don't really hear the crowd. We don't hear anything. We're in our, you know how we are. We're in our zone. But the beautiful thing is that we see people, human beings cheering on one accord. Everybody here doing the wave or whatever it is you're trying to win. And that is sort of the idea that we hope for the world. Like when we are playing, that it brings people together because those are the one moments in life that nobody's asking anybody, hey man, what you believe in? And there's no discrimination happening in the stands because you guys are cheering, you're happy, you're excited. So the beautiful thing is I'm happy that you had such an amazing experience, but that you're able to experience our culture in a way that you get to come to the cookout. And I'm sure you've heard all of these different types of things because we are people who we love. We love unconditionally. We accept anybody because we know we come in all different colors. So it's not like you're going to get to a person who's a very fair skinned person and then you go to your color and we're like, oh, there's a difference because it's not. We don't see it that way. So I'm just happy that you got to experience that because that is how we experience life in general in sports. I mean, like I said, I played in Russia, I played in Italy. I'm out there with Italians and with Russians, and I don't care. I'm trying to win. You know what I mean? And so we see life in that way that it's just a beautiful thing that you got to experience that because I get to experience that with my Jewish friends. Like I go to Shabbat. I love Shabbat. I don't know why I don't get invited to Shabbat enough. But
By the way, I have Shabbat
I love
next
Shabbat.
Friday, so you're invited.
In Florida, I live in another. I don't know why they don't. We need to talk to them. They do not. I'm like, does anybody do Shabbat here? What happened? But anyways, I love the culture because I love lots of things by putting down your phone and being with your family and engaging. Like there's so many beautiful things about Judaism that I love and my husband love that we add to our family. And I just think again, back to Eric. I don't know if he's still in the room or not, but the beauty of hi Eric. I didn't know where you were. But the beauty of what you were saying is like it's just that we have to learn to be allies for one another. We have to learn to support one another, and that's what the world is supposed to be. Us together, and you playing ball in it. And I'm sure they don't ever think about you as the Jewish guy. I'm sure they don't because they know you. They know what kind of guy you are. Do you think about him like, oh, I got a Jewish friend? Right, because all of those things go out the door because of love.
I agree with you 1,000,000%. And this is my whole life. Thank you. But I'm just going to share one thing. It's actually gone down to the next generation now, which makes me the happiest thing in the world because my teammates' kids are friends with my kids now. So now when I see them interacting and call, like last week, one of my teammates, Sam's son, he just got a basketball scholarship. So when I see my son call Sam's son and continuing the love, and to me, that's like, that's the real championship right there. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so
And
it just keeps going.
Tamir, you probably teach your son the same lessons your dad taught you, which is there's no room for ego, right? You got to stay humble, which makes me think, Eddie, when you're transitioning from being an athlete where you have to have ego, you have to believe that you could beat the guy that you're going up against. How do you transition to business and navigate that ego?
For me, I think you gotta I treat it the same way I treated basketball. I knew where I wasn't good. I knew it was gonna take a lot of work in other areas. Some things came easier than others, but I leaned on the people who did it before me and who did it well, and who have my best interest at heart. But um, I also am not a fool. Also, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people who will appear to be smart that aren't that much smarter than you. So, I mean, a lot of times right now we're blessed with Google and YouTube, and it's a bunch of incredible forums out here for you to get better. If you wanna succeed in any particular area. So I mean that's how I do it. I know with the PA, I don't know how attached you are with the WNBPA, but we put together a lot of different resources for guys who want to get into. You want to get into real estate? Fine, we'll go out and we'll find the best people in real estate and we'll bring them in and we'll create a whole curriculum around that so that you can be educated. So that it's not just passing you off to someone and just sending a check to someone. No, you got to sit down. You got to be a part of it. We just had a experience the other day where we took the Brooklyn Nets and we brought them to a house, and this is completely separate from anything that they're obligated to do, contractually binding to do. This is all of them on free will coming into one place to learn about business, to learn about VC, to learn about how to play the game of life after basketball. So it's just certain things like that certain things that I wish I would have taken advantage of that we now really lean into.
What would those things be?
Just resources. Like I said, we had resources when I was coming up, but I was the guy in the room, and a lot of people were in the room with me that were like, we kind of treated those meetings as like, everybody go in this meeting, be quiet, don't say nothing so we can get out of here quick. Right? That was kind of how the league was when I was coming up. But now, I don't know, was it like that for you guys too? Right? That's how we treat
Sound like the same for you, Lisa?
Yeah.
Well, I think when you don't have, see, the biggest difference between NBA and WNBA is that we don't make the amount of money that they make. So we have to be more focused on what our plan, we have a plan A, B, and C already. So it's like I did my undergrad, I have a master's in business. Like there's no way that we can do what they do because when you don't have an understanding of money, and I'm not saying you, but just in general across the board, you're talking about the first generation of millionaires and the majority of them are African American. So you have to understand that if this is your first exposure to money, you don't have the financial wisdom to understand the importance of listening to the real estate guy and getting his card and trying to figure out how to go buy some properties in your community and change those into investment homes and properties. You don't understand it because you're only 24, 25, and you got millions in the bank. So it makes sense that they wouldn't be paying attention and that you want to get out. For us, you can have that conversation, but we're like, oh, okay, so what can you do with 50,000? So it's different, but you can still do something with 50,000. So I was able to purchase 2 homes, playing in a WNBA in 1997. But me purchasing those 2 homes at that time and then selling those homes in 2000 at millions of dollars, I didn't understand, but I was really blessed to have my uncles who were 2 financial, they're Simpson Simpson, they had a company here on Wilshire that was they do taxes and auditing and things like that. So I had financial advisors early when I'm like, okay, here I got money, what do I do to it, how do I invest it? So I was not out shopping and buying things. I could get 1 purse a year, that was it. But the rest of the things was about me investing. So I bought properties, was able to flip them. Then obviously when I met my husband, he was actually buying real estate and doing the same thing, even though he was a pilot. So it's like we came together. We have 30 years of real estate. I went and got licensed. He got licensed once we had moved to Florida. And now it's like we've been able to help people and we've sold $20 million homes. But the idea was that I was always thinking about business because, again, the WNBA, we weren't sure how long it was going to last. So everything has always been about what's the next step. But I get it for a person who makes millions of dollars, and now you're like, oh, I'm good for the rest of my life. Well, actually, you're not, because there's something called taxes that's going to take half of that. Then you have an agent, and then you have deals, and then you have things you want, and you have family that you got to help. So sometimes when you don't have, and I hate to say financial literacy, but that is kind of what it is when you're that first generation. We're not privy to have money handed down to us. We will be the first group of people to be able to have trust funds and leave money for our children. And even then, we're re-educating our children to understand the importance of business and how to invest it. And now my daughter's licensed in real estate. So we have these first opportunities that we've never had before. So it does make sense. And I do remember those meetings where people weren't listening. But for me, I'm like, networking is key. So may I have your card, and can I have your card, and let me follow up with an email. But that just was me. And I told you I felt different all the time. But business is, I mean, it's changed in so many ways, but in some ways it hasn't, because it still comes down to relationships, right? It still comes down to the integrity of whatever your company is and how you treat people. I think all of those things are still very important, even though we're getting to an AI place where you can send a letter that's perfectly put together now, right? And you can put together a whole business plan. But at the end of the day, I still think the importance of being in the room with people and those relationships are going to matter in how people show up.
No doubt. What I'm hearing from you is essentially you're smart enough to know how much you don't know, right? That's what I'm hearing. And I think that goes to what you said, Eddy, as far as some people, that's where people get into trouble. So if I were to say one thing that has guided me is I understand, smart enough to know how much I don't know. So Tamir, what would you say if there was one thing that's helped guide you as you've made decisions that sort of encompasses it from a business perspective and an athletic perspective?
Okay, like I think about this all the time, which is we really can't control even the next 5 seconds of our life. If you think about it, there's 60 trillion cells in our body working right now. So my answer is we have to leave space for God, meaning do the absolute best you can, put yourself in the best situation to succeed, but leave space for God. Can't control things too much. People reach out to me all the time. They want to meet me, things that don't even seem to have anything to do with sport or anything I'm involved in. But I always say yes, because I always leave space for God. I try not to be too controlling. The more open we are, the more receptacle are for blessing, not only for us, but for the people around us.
I like that, Lise.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, this.
That's beautiful. Well, on that note, I just want to thank you each for being here today. And I think a sign of something meaningful is when I feel like I walk away a little smarter. So thank you to each of you. And thank you, all of you, for being here today.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for sticking to the end here. We let this panel go a little longer because it was too remarkable to cut off. There was just no way we were going to cut that short. Thank you so much, this panel. Just amazing to hear your stories. Oh, they want a picture. But well, I'll do a photo in a second. But what I really want is, because you stayed this long, you all get a reward, which is over at the fabric sign at the back. We have t-shirts. We have brand new Mamba and Mambacita books. Vanessa Bryant's book that she did with Andy Bernstein. Beautiful, tremendous photography and storytelling. A legacy to Kobe Bryant. Just totally amazing. Please go and get those. The basketballs, we're going to give away a bunch of them. I feel like everybody here wants one. We don't have enough for everyone. So please, if you're coming from a family or whatever, share. And we want to make sure to leave a few behind for some special guests. But please do get basketballs, shirts. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rabbi Era Sherman, who made this all come together. Thank you.
They're right here. A big shout out and applause to Saul Garlic. When I gave him this idea, we needed somebody to execute it. And what we've heard all day long here is this knowledge and this conversation cannot just stay in the room. And so as NBA All-Star Weekend kicks off here in Los Angeles, a call to action for all of us. Let's urge our sports and faith communities to come together as we utilize our powerful networks, developing a unity playbook with a buy-in for athletes and coaches and institutions to create a set of practices that champions inclusion, stands up to hate, and prioritizes shared dignity. After the weekend, we're going to be releasing this content with the permission of our guests so that you can share with your networks, with your communities, that we can begin to network for all of us, no matter how big or small, to interrupt hate with human dignity, to replace silence with empathy, and to be the builders of trust in our families, schools, and teams. And so as it began this morning, it's not faith or sports, but as we've witnessed all day long, it's faith and sports. Thank you. God bless. Have a wonderful day. And go All-Star Weekend.